Hello, everybody. Welcome to Movie Reel. I'm Kevin Tracy.
And I'm Samantha Tomlinson.
I am very excited for this movie today. I actually remember seeing this approximately 3 times in theaters when it first came out. Um, Super hilarious movie, and it is the 2007 movie Wild Hogs. Why don't you give us a brief synopsis of that, Sam?
It is a bunch of middle-aged guys who are in pretending they're in a biker gang. They all just wear leather jackets with a patch on it that says Wild Hogs, and to regain their youth, decide to go on a cross-country road trip.
Yeah, they start from Cincinnati and they want to go all the way to uh, California. Um, this movie is also just really interesting because not only is this movie like super like star-studded, it's got Tim Allen, Martin Lawrence, John Travolta, William H Macy, Ray Liotta. It has
John C. I'm spacing on his name, but he was the flamboyant cop that kept hitting on them.
yeah. He was.
I'm
I just
God.
remember
What
him
is
as. I just remember him. He's like the main, like one
John
of the
C.
doctors.
McGinley.
Yeah,
John C. McGinley. He was on
I
Scrubs,
yeah
stuff like
Scrubs.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it also has Aunt May in
Marissa
it. Yeah,
Marissa
Marissa
Tomei,
Tomei. Yeah,
and
no, this movie is
it's
just it is just jam packed with as many celebrities as possible. It feels like, um, and it definitely works. Like everyone just kind of brings their A game to this movie, and which is kind of surprising because this seems like a movie that not that many people talk about or remember. Um, like I mean, it wasn't the best comedy, but I mean, it's still like a really solid comedy. It's pretty much just four men each going through their own kind of like internal midlife crisis kind of situation. And I'll kind of delve into that a bit later, but it's all really solid, pretty straightforward comedy that seems somewhat relatable, no matter what age. And yeah, the jokes are solid. The cast is phenomenal, but I never understood why this isn't one of those movies that isn't as remembered as it is.
so I had never seen this movie. I remember when it came out, and I had just my sister. I told her we were doing this movie. She's like, "You've seen this movie a bunch of times." Like, no, I haven't. I've never seen this movie, and I'm like the only scene that I've seen. It's like it was just on TV, and I just remember seeing for this one scene. It was when William H Macy comes out of the woods carrying a bag of his own shit and decides to hang it in a tree so that the bears don't get it. That is the only scene that I have seen, and the first act of this movie, the first third of this movie, I hated it so much. I thought it was such garbage and it was like torture. And for a split second I realized I can't blame you for having me watch this because I think I'm the one that suggested it. I think you put it on the table, like, hey, this would be a
Yeah,
good one to do. And then
yeah,
I'm like, yeah, let's just do this movie. and and then I'm like, also I couldn't blame you because I've made you sit through way shittier things and watch you suffer. So I realized that I have no reason to complain. I have no right to complain. um,
this is my
uh,
unintentional payback. Even
Revenge.
though even though in all fairness, I actually genuinely enjoy this movie, and I don't think it's that bad.
I think once uh once they are on the road, I thought it got better. Especially once they were in uh Madrid, New
Oh yeah,
Mexico. Once they were in the town, that's when I was fully invested. And that's when I actually noticed I started laughing out loud. There were a lot of jokes that I know were supposed to be funny that I just didn't find funny. And there were some that I'm like, I know this is supposed to be funny, but it made me think of how I think I said this during League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, how there were times where Sean Connery would say a zinger, and then it would just cut so quick that we don't have time to laugh or respond to the zinger. And there were a
Gotcha.
couple jokes like William H Macy opens the door and expects it to like slowly like stay open and then it just slams closed. He just went right on with it, and there's something about the whole like it wasn't like we didn't I saw what happened, but just the movement was so quick that he just went on with it. Like there was no time for the audience to like
What do
fully
you? I
react.
feel like there was like a proper time to react because literally as soon
Yeah,
as that happened, all the other like the other like the Del Fuegos, the bad guys of this movie, they all like bust up laughing. It's like, oh, look at this idiot. So it's like that. Yeah, that's a proper cue
I
for the
mean,
audience to laugh as well.
it was just very whatever. I feel like once they were on the trip, it picked up.
Yeah.
The first act, I was just I couldn't believe. I'm like I was called my sister. I'm like, you've seen this multiple times. How? Why? I didn't get. I was trying because I know you love this movie, and I was trying to like understand the appeal. And I by the end, I got the appeal, but the
Yeah.
first
Yeah.
half was really rough.
I do agree. Like the opening of just them all introducing themselves is really slow, even though like that is a very vital part. But it does kind of
It's
go
not.
back
Yeah,
into what I was referencing earlier of it kind of delves into like each of these guys' lives and just kind of shows them or shows the audience just kind of their own kind of personal midlife crisis. Like Tim Allen, he's a dentist in Cincinnati and he has pretty much just played it safe like his entire life. And we learn a little bit later on that he was kind of like the wild child of the group. Like he was just like getting high and doing all these crazy stunts, like all the time in college.
and his kid doesn't like him. His kid thinks he's just super lame,
Yeah,
and
um,
that's his major problem, and that he has to eat
yeah, he,
healthy because of reason.
yeah, because of health reasons. Yeah, he's just
Yeah,
always kind of been playing it safe since like he's had a family. He needs to be responsible. And then there's William H Macy who didn't take any risks in life and he's terrified of talking to women. He's incredibly awkward even though he wants to kind of have that connection with someone, but he is emotionally incapable of doing that. He's emotionally incapable of actually um, making that first step to forming some kind of a relationship like that. And then John Travolta is just the kind of guy who's kind of lived a bit more than the other guys, but he is pretty much lost everything. His wife's divorced him. He's going bankrupt. He's losing his house. He's just everything's going wrong for him. So this road trip is like his like only real escape, like both literally and figuratively. And then Martin Lawrence has just been kind of beaten down by life. Like his wife is kind of like in charge. He's not really making any money. He's unemployed, and the one job that he does have is just he's basically like a worse plumber because he's just cleaning up like gas station like restrooms and stuff like that. It's just his life just kind of sucks. So it's just like, yeah, no, I'll definitely take this road trip. Please take me with you.
but they all seem to be kind of like. I mean, yes, they're nice to each other, but I'm
Yeah,
like, how do they not know that John Travolta is going through divorce? How do they not know that uh, Martin Lawrence worked with he was like a plumber and then quit because he wanted to take a year off to write his how-to book. We never
yeah,
know. It never comes back, and we also have no idea how to what. It's
yeah.
just his how-to book,
It's
and
just
yeah,
he wanted to do something that didn't involve that.
yeah. And I
Yeah.
thought that was like a. I didn't have any issue with that idea. It just didn't ever come back. Like
Well,
it would
it
have
didn't
been.
really need to. I feel
I
like
know, but
it was
it
just
seemed random, like
yeah,
that he took off a year for this book, so it kind of made it sound like it was going to be important, or maybe he's embarrassed to admit to his friends that he's writing a book, like whatever. Like I just thought it's the
well,
fact that he took so much time off made it seem like it
I
was
think the
important.
main thing is just it for Martin Lawrence's character is just how beaten down he is and how
Yes.
low down the food chain he is in his own household. Like his children don't listen to him. His teenage daughter doesn't respect him. She like walks down and is like, "What are you doing dressed like that?" It's like, "Dad, you're so lame." And his younger daughter, she's just screaming. She won't listen to him. He gets no respect at home. And that's pretty much like the only main takeaway. The book was just kind of like a throwaway joke was just
Mm,
showing like he
okay.
wants to do something, but he really can't. Um, because no one trusts or believes in his ability to do that at home. So he gets no support. The only support he really gets is from his friends on this road trip.
Yeah, but none of them seem like they don't know that he went back as a he like had to get his job back as a plumber. None of them seem
Yeah.
to know that John Travolta's going through a divorce. I'm like, why don't? How do they not know this?
I don't know. Well, it seems like they only kind of like hang out like every like once in a while, and all they do is just kind of like drink beer at a bar for like an hour. That seems like the only time they ever really hang out outside of this road trip. Because outside of this road trip, they all like collectively hang out two times, and one of them is when they are meeting up to go on the road trip.
Yeah. Um.
And
Yeah.
and they never show like how much time has passed since them meeting at the bar, discussing the idea of potentially going on a road trip that John Travolta proposes, and them actually going on and doing it. Like for all we know, like week's time has passed.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a week. This entire like the trip is supposed to be about a week,
Yeah,
and
which I think is yeah, that's a believable stretch of time.
it's a believable stretch of time. I'm just more thinking realistically. So you're going to take how long going to take to get across the country, and then how long going to take to get back? Like that's so much writing in a week. So it's not as much the time frame of the movie. I'm more thinking of they say we got to be back in a week, and I'm like, wow, good luck.
Yeah,
Like
I mean,
that's a
I
lot.
was, I mean, kind of a side tangent, but a friend of mine had to go. He got like a job opportunity over in Massachusetts, and he needed to drive like his car and like all of his stuff there because there's no way it would be way more expensive to just ship it uh,
Yeah.
through air. So I went with him to keep him company because going cross country by yourself is not that just sounds like torture. So I went with him, and it took us about a week to go from here in California all the way to Massachusetts, and then I got flown back.
Yeah.
So it is a believable thing, and we were pretty much going nonstop. Like we would drive like 8, 10 hour days.
Yeah.
Like we would drive at like 7 in the morning to like 10 at night. And yeah, we literally had like one day where we just kind of goofed off of just
Hmm.
like, okay, let's just go sightseeing. We're a day early. Let's just kind of relax and not be in the car.
See, I next month I'm going to Joshua Tree, so that's like Palm Springs area in Southern
Okay.
California, and uh, my friends are flying. I do not want to get on a plane right now because that sounds
Yeah.
gross to
Yeah.
me,
No, I
and
completely agree.
this isn't exactly essential to do this, so I don't see a need to fly. And I get it is a lot of driving, but I would rather just be in the car. And so I'm gonna just drive by myself for like 6 plus hours. And everybody else is way more nervous than I am. I'm like, it's gonna be fine. But my mom is like, no, you gotta plot out exactly when you're gonna stop. So you actually get out and like walk around, and I'm just like, ugh, like can't I just drive? Because when I mean I get if I'm tired, but sometimes when I'm driving, I don't like to unless I have to. I don't like to stop. I just want to get there. But that's just me.
Yeah, I'm more or less the same when it comes to driving. It's just I need to always have like my map like on my phone just so I know like, oh, I need to take this exit to go to this highway. Like I need to know where I need to like plan out like where I'm going at like all moments
Yeah,
of the drive. And like I
yeah.
can't really necessarily relax. Like I'll probably have like the radio on, but like I'll turn it down whenever I think like I have like an exit coming up so I don't miss it.
Oh,
um
yeah.
yeah,
The first
yeah.
time I drove home, I drove from Chico to San Jose. I missed the exit, and I had to make a quick I had to like switch lanes really quick, and then I was just sitting in traffic. And I think I was gonna already be sitting in traffic, but I was sitting in traffic in the
On the
wrong
wrong, yeah.
way. And then the next time I drove home, I didn't miss my exit, and I was like, oh wow, this is so much faster when I go the right way.
Who would have thunk?
So this whole trip, the whole thing is, yeah, like they just want to, regain their youth and everything. They just want to take a break from everything, and they decide to throw. Okay, so Martin
Yeah.
Lawrence told his wife that he is going on some like plumbing, going to be at some plumbing convention,
Yeah,
and he said you
a,
guys
a
got to
toilet
cover.
bowl conference in Cleveland.
And so and then they all just like throw their phones and
Yeah, well, at
break.
first, like John Travolta is like, "All right, like, no, no phones. We need to be free." And then Tim Allen breaks his phone. Is like, "Hey, I'm not supposed to do that for." And
It's like,
then William H
yeah.
Macy, who has the only working phone now, just haphazardly throws it after like everyone's like, "No, no, no, we need at least one phone for emergency," and it hits the windshield of like this big rig car, and it's like, "Oh shit, we gotta go!" And they all just peel out.
So their characters are, so John Travolta is kind of like the leader of the group, and he is the kind of the wild, reckless one. Tim Allen is the level-headed one. Uh, William H Macy is the timid and kind of dim-witted one, and
Yeah,
Martin
even
Lawrence
though he's arguably
is,
the smartest one there because he's like a computer
yeah,
programmer.
and Tim Allen is the, I mean not Tim Allen, sorry, Martin
Well,
Lawrence is the,
Martin Lawrence.
Martin Lawrence is the black one. Like, I mean, no, like
He's the
seriously, like,
token minority.
but no, seriously, like that I felt like that was his. I had no real issue with him. Like he was fine,
I
but
felt like
that
he was
kind
more of
of
like the comedic relief role because pretty much like a lot of the stuff that he said was a really funny one-liner, or he made like a really funny facial expression
he
to
did,
what
but
all the
also
dumb stuff that everyone else is saying.
yeah. But William H Macy was, air quotes the dumb one. So I thought
Yeah,
he was also. I kind of just felt like, I mean, Tim Allen and John Travolta were the leaders of the group, and
yeah, no, I definitely picked
yeah,
that up.
this I will say the audience for this is definitely for men. That's I
Oh,
was thinking about that the
100%.
whole time because I'm like, not just the cast, but also like the just the
The
I feel like
motorcycle porn.
the but yeah, also the fact that it's just filled with like gay jokes because it's a group of men all traveling together, and of course
Oh yeah,
the first night they stop off and uh this is just after they have the whole William H Macy shit in a bag thing,
yeah.
and then they're making s'mores, and Tim Allen's marshmallow is on fire, and rather than blow it out and eat it, he just throws it behind him, and their tent gets set on fire. So they all have to share a mattress,
Yeah,
and then John C. McGinley shows up. He's kind of the like
he's like
he's a
a highway
gay,
patrol officer.
yeah, gay highway patrol officer who like is watching them, and of course they're all just like talking like,
Yeah, they're all spooning on the bed
but
on like this air mattress.
saying like, God, it took me forever to blow it. I blowed so hard last night, and God, my back's
It's like,
killing me from all that. Like,
oh,
it's just
oh
you.
man, my ass is sore from all that riding. Yeah, that's why we didn't bring our wives so we can be closer as friends.
And then it's really awkward. And then he, of course, is like, I hope to God you finish that sentence. And then later, they decide, they like stop at like a little like creek watering hole to go swimming and decide to go skinny
Swimming.
dipping.
Well, William H.
Yeah.
Macy just immediately goes in skinny dipping, and then the rest of them is like, I mean, I guess, I mean, wild and free, and then they all just slowly convince each other to do that, and then like a family of like 5 shows up with like these little kids, like, hey, you don't mind if we swim with you guys? Like, oh no.
And that part I thought was funny, but I'm also like, it's not like they're in a public pool. They're not being. It's not like they're being disgusting. They were by themselves when they decided to
Oh
do
yeah.
this. So I'm not like, I wasn't like, well, yeah, and they're like being shamed, and I'm like, that's not. And then of course, John C. McGinley shows up, and
Yeah.
and decides to join them, and it just got. And then after that, then he starts like, okay, fine, Marco. And they're all
William H.
just
Macy
like,
yells polo, and then everyone else leaves.
I thought that was, or I thought they're all skinny dipping, and William H Macy decides to do a handstand underwater, and the guys just went like, ew, like, cause,
So
and I thought that was funny. That was the first time I laughed. I genuinely laughed.
so a little trivia about that. For that scene, like they weren't actually new. They were wearing like the costume department basically made like these like pouches to cover their stuff. And they even put like rhinestone like jewelry to make it spell out wild hogs. Which was I thought that was really funny. But the cop, when he shows up, he like dives in head first into the pool, and they had to do this like 5 or 6 takes, and because of that, his thing kept falling off, and after a while, it's like he just didn't bother to keep putting it back on. So after like the last couple takes, he's doing it completely nude. So I think in the movie, he's doing that nude where everyone else is wearing like the pouch.
And this is the last time we see him. He doesn't show up again.
No,
It
no,
was
he
yeah,
doesn't.
but yeah, I it was the fact that there were these like not discriminatory. They were not discriminatory gay jokes. They were just
No,
like they were. Oh, it's a group of men traveling together. We're gonna make gay jokes.
I mean
Like,
this
and
was
they're not. Yeah.
2007.
Yes.
It was definitely a
Yes.
product of its time,
Yes.
but it's not like it's
It's not like
overtly
offensive.
offensive. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not offensive, or at least I don't think it is.
It's
Um,
more of just how I. Yeah. This is the if you have a group of guys who are all straight and that's how they're gonna yeah it wasn't anything
yeah.
overly offensive or anything like that. It was just definitely something I was aware of. I also going into this movie, um there's a podcast I listen to where they talk about bad movies, and they talked about Wild Hogs a long time ago. And so pretty much everything that they said, I like within the first 10 minutes, I'm like, yeah. I wasn't like they like it's a hit every mark, and I'm like, oh my god, there was really. I mean, I didn't know the whole exactly what was gonna happen. I don't remember that much of the podcast, but like they hit every mark, so it wasn't.
Yeah.
I wasn't necessarily majorly surprised, but yeah, they get out and then they quickly leave behind their skinny dipping adventure, and they
Yeah.
keep on rolling. And
That,
after
that
this,
they keep
yeah,
trucking. Yeah.
yeah, we just keep getting, and then we are getting like a montage of them just cutting back and forth of them
Yeah.
driving and or riding. And actually, so William H Macy, the beginning of the movie, he's clearly the worst driver, and he keeps
Yeah,
like running into things.
he like accidentally like jumps the curb and like crashes into a street sign that says "Welcome to Cincinnati." Like pretty early on in the beginning, and then later on when they're all going to the bar, he jumps the curb again. He just loses control, so he has to ride on the back seat of John Travolta.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
I guess a scene in the when they're in the bar when they're deciding to take the trip. There's some parade that they're all going to be in, and William H Macy's like, "Yeah, I have candy. I'm gonna have Tootsie Rolls. I'm gonna throw to the kids." And Martin Lawrence is one that points out like, "How can you possibly do that? You can barely drive." And I thought, yeah, how is he gonna do this cross country? First of all, how long have they been driving? It's been at least like 20 years, I'm guessing, that they've been all friends and doing this. Why is he still struggle so hard to ride? And
I don't know
also, if he is this
because they
bad,
probably only do this like every once in a while, not like every day.
I
So
mean,
it's like he's
okay,
probably
but
just rusty. It was just a running joke, and I think
but
yeah,
that was the thing
yeah.
was it actually went away. Like the most of the movie, he did not seem to have an issue writing, and it wasn't until the very end of the movie there was when they're leaving Madrid, and he like ran into like a pile of haystacks.
Yeah, well, that's because he wasn't. He straight up just wasn't paying attention. Like that
That
wasn't
time,
like
yes, yeah,
yeah, like
yeah,
that wasn't like of him making like an error of judgment of like steering. That was just him not looking where he was going. So it
yeah,
was pilot error, but it wasn't to an extent of him just blatantly losing control for no
yeah,
reason. Um, but yeah, going back to the road trip during their montage, this entire movie is pretty much like filmed in New Mexico, except for like the final scene where they're in California. But it's really cool watching like their like kind of like montage throughout New Mexico, because they make it look like it's a cross country road trip throughout. Like the plane, like each landscape is completely different. Like they're going through like this like very like outdoorsy woodsy area. They're going through like these plains. They're going passing through like all these like valleys and canyons and rivers and just beautiful landscape. And it was
yeah,
just really cool how they were able to incorporate a quote unquote cross country road trip all in one state. And I just really like that they were able to
yeah,
pull that off, even though they probably had like a very limited um, scouting locate, like, filming locations.
yeah. Um, and Yeah, I will say location wise, I did think it was cool. I will say the beginning. I have never been to Cincinnati. It just didn't look like Cincinnati.
I've never
That
been
was my
either,
only
so
thing.
I can
I
neither confirm nor
I can't
deny
tell.
if
It
that
just
actually
some.
was Cincinnati.
It looked like New Orleans. I for some reason I don't remember why I thought that, but regardless, I don't know. I've never been to any of these places, so I
I,
can't
I,
judge.
I
Except the
actually,
ending, the last place. I'm like, I feel like I've been there. I've probably
yeah,
been there, but I don't
yeah.
remember.
Well, I think in like because I watched this like recently, and I watched it with the director's commentary, so I kind of knew a little bit more of
Of
like
course you did.
yeah. I mean, what else would I be doing? Um, so yeah, I was like, what? And I'm pretty sure they said that like pretty much like 90% of this movie was filmed in New Mexico, and there actually is a town called
Yes.
Madrid, uh, where they filmed there, and they pretty much revamped that entire like main street, built that diner almost from scratch.
Oh yeah, and it's
Um,
still there.
yeah, it's still there. It's pretty much like a tourist attraction there now, and pretty much I think they filmed like a couple things on a set in California, I believe, and then they filmed like the beach scene in California, and then that was pretty much it. But it's like
Yeah.
90% in New Mexico, and I think the opening shot of them in quote unquote Cincinnati is New Mexico somewhere.
Hmm.
So yeah, you're probably right that it doesn't look like Cincinnati because I
I don't
don't
know.
think it
It
was.
looked just like I for a second I thought it was New Orleans. That's just how the buildings kind of look. But again, I've never been there either, so it's just how it, from no, like from pictures and stuff. That's how it looks. But again,
It's like
I don't know.
I
Um,
saw Princess and the Frog approximately one time. I know what New Orleans looks like.
no. Well, yes, but no. I've seen. First of all, I've seen Princess and the Frog more than once. Secondly, there's other things I've seen set in New Orleans. I don't know. It was just the anyway. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I just
Going on a
yes.
tangent.
Um, but yeah. So anyway, they end up they're in New Mexico and they're at this. They find this like biker bar and they're really excited. Like, oh, this is going to be so cool. And it is home of the Del Fuegos, which are like an
Yes,
actual legitimate biker gang
biker gang. Yeah,
who
they,
led by
they
Ray Liotta.
yeah they think it's just like kind of like more or less like a truck stop, or it's just like very friendly towards bikers. No, they're basically in like Hell's Angels, like Banditos type territory, where this is like a legitimate like biker organization that does criminal activities. Like, oh no, we're in the wrong place. And it's also really funny because apparently to kind of like fill out like the casting call for this movie for like all the bikers for the Del Fuegos, because they had probably like 50 or 60 extras of just people riding on motorcycles that looked like bikers, or were former like Banditos and Hells Angels and all these other like ex members of legitimate biker organizations. um, and when they were filming in New Mexico, because they were near like they were filming somewhat close to like Banditos or like whatever biker organization was over there, um, they had someone representing that organization come by, make sure they weren't doing anything that was overtly disrespectful to them. Like they couldn't wear like the Del Fuegos, this fake gang, couldn't wear colors like a patch like on the bottom right of their vest, because apparently that's a big no-no. Um, and that's like a real thing that bikers do. So that would be like them kind of like establishing themselves or something. So it's like, oh, if you do that, like shit's gonna go down. It's like, oh, okay, didn't realize it was that
Holy crap.
serious. Yeah, like it was kind of like a scary thing to kind of hear about. Of just like, yeah, no, like we had like a couple people from like Hell's Angels and like Banditos, like making sure like we weren't like disrespecting them in any way, and God only knows what would have happened if they did. Um, but yeah, it was really interesting, kind of like hearing about that, of just how much like representation they got from all these different biker organizations, and how much attention they inadvertently drew to themselves by doing that.
It's like the in the Mummy how he had to take kidnappers insurance out on the actors. That's like their equivalent, the equivalent for Wild Dog's equivalent.
I
And
don't think they have biker threat insurance though.
I'm thinking, your amount of knowledge of Wild Hogs. I can't imagine what's gonna happen when we get to like I don't know if we ever do Kangaroo Jacks. I know that's another movie where you have the director's commentary and the special effects.
I actually don't have that on DVD or
You
anything.
don't? I thought you
I
did.
No, I saw that like forever ago. I actually just recently watched that just on a whim with my family because I haven't seen that in probably like 12 years. Like last time I saw that,
Yeah.
I was still living in I was like probably like first grade and living in Texas. And I saw it
Yeah.
like so many times when it first came out, but I've not seen it since until like a month ago and whoa, that movie brings back some weird
Yeah.
memories. Like I remembered a lot of the jokes, but I remember
You
them being
don't.
a lot funnier than they were
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
the movie.
Yeah. So
I
anyway,
would love
the
to do
yeah.
that movie though. But
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
anyway,
Yeah.
anyway,
The
back to the Del Fuegos.
so yeah, they walk in. They're just gonna have a beer, whatever, and then of course the William H Macy is super excited because the beginning of the movie he is showing off his tattoo. It's of the like original like
Apple
1980s
logo.
Apple logo. He's like, look, like I got marked. And then when they get into this biker bar, and he's like, "Nice tat. Want to see mine?" And it's like, Apple. It's so anyway. And then yeah.
Yeah, yeah, he's like comparing it. He's comparing his tattoo to like some guys like, oh, nice tat. Where'd you get it? And it's like some like chain link barbed wire like tribal tattoo that like armband like all the way around his arms like I got it in Leavenworth. It's like in Leavenworth I learned is a prison. So I
Oh.
was like, oh, this is not gonna end well for you.
And he like I don't. It was like the something Galleria. Like he got it at the mall.
Yeah, the Meadow Hills Galleria. It's like, ooh, yeah, you gonna die.
Um. So Ray Liotta comes over, and he is, of course, has a problem with them, and he basically is trying to like trick. Uh, William H Macy is complimenting him on his bike, and
Yeah, yeah. He says like, "Oh yeah, who's like 48 panhead is outside?" And it's like, "Oh, that's mine. I'm sick of it. How about a trade?" It's like, "Oh no, I'm just driving like a Sportster. It's only like it's pretty old." It's like Sportster. I grew up on that. Like I totally trade with you. It's like seriously, and he ends up showing him like this like piece of junk that happens to be the same bike he was described or the same model that he was describing. It's like, yeah, no, you already accepted the trade, no trade backs, and then he like lays into them. It's like, I'm so sick of you suburban assholes pretending to be bikers just because you wear leather and ride a bike. That doesn't make you bikers. You're just posers. You're fakes. And then just lays into each of them individually and like
also
pinpoints like,
accurate.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yes, like so accurate. It's like, oh yeah, like Tim Allen, I bet you're an orthodontist. Like, damn, close enough. And just lays into all of them individually, and it's just really funny, but also like incredibly intimidating because Ray Liotta just like let loose for this movie. He went full like not full method, but like pretty damn close for this.
I just kept thinking Ray Liotta has been in such so much better movies. I was like, Ray Liotta, come on. But then again, so is everybody in this movie, so I can't really blame just him. But anyway, um, so they end up like, yeah, he lays into them, and then I did think this was funny. He basically he takes William H Macy's bike, and then attack. They have a sidecar. William H
Attached to
Macy
John Travolta's
isn't it?
bike.
I thought that was funny. And then he's, of course, John Travolta is just so pissed off that they just let him, you know, bullied. They were just all bullied, and they're all grown men, and so they all want to just like it's whatever. It's not a big deal. Let's just go home. And he walks back to the bar and clips the gas lines on the bikes,
Yeah.
and then gets the bike, goes back, and he tells them that he like literally said, you know, we're gonna call our lawyers and blah blah blah, and
Yeah, just like the biggest like BS lie you could have thought of.
which
It's like,
I
oh
kind
yeah,
of
no,
thought,
we're
wouldn't it have been more badass of him to tell them the truth that he just clipped their cars, clip the wires of their bikes?
yeah, yeah. It's like it makes no sense on why you didn't just tell
Yeah.
them that.
The only thing I feel like later it made sense why he didn't tell them was because they ride past the bar, the Del Fuegos are going after them. Their gas lines are all broke, and of course, someone drops a cigarette, and the whole bar blows up. And John Travolta sees it in the mirror, like, holy shit. So I get by that point because,
It's
that's
like,
a
oh,
crime.
I might have just killed a few
I was
dozen
thinking, I'm like,
people.
I hope no one's inside. And,
Yeah.
uh,
And
yeah.
a quick tangent back to the bar blowing up. So the director, he knew like right away like he was gonna blow this place up. But the problem was he told the special effects guy, I want this thing to rival a Michael Bay explosion. So
Oh
this thing
boy.
blew up into a very hot burning fireball, and Ray Liotta and like a couple like the other like Head del Fuegos were supposed to stay on their mark that was like relatively close to it. Um, like not close enough to the point where like they would be injured or anything in like
Yeah.
an explosion or anything or hit by a shockwave, but because of how actually hot it was, they ended up destroying, like straight up just melting, three motorcycles, and Ray Liotta and a couple of the other people like just left their marks because it was so hot. They ended up destroying three motorcycles, and the whole bar was burned down in probably like 3 minutes. Because they later like cut back to like the Del Fuegos like plan is like, oh, we're gonna find these sons of bitches, and the building is just charred ruins. That was the bar like 3 minutes after it blew up.
Jeez.
they, they were so lucky that no one actually got hurt, because
Yeah.
you can see in the movie like a lot of the extras kind of like near the bar entrance, they are hauling ass, and they're pretty close to the actual fire, and then when it blows up, like everyone's just like running away because they're but a couple people are staying because like, no wait, we're supposed to stay on our marks, and then there's just kind of like a scramble and panic of them just kind of like either staying or leaving.
Yeah.
And a couple of them are like looking back. It's like, are we supposed to stay or go? Like they can't
Holy
decide
crap.
what they're trying to do because it's actual chaos.
Jeez. Oh my
Yeah,
god. That's
the more you
I
know.
want this to rival a Michael Bay movie. Fatal words when it comes
Yeah,
to explosions. So yeah, I totally get why this point why John Travolta he doesn't seem he is more upset because he's afraid that the Del Fuegos are going to come after them and kill them, which is a very
legitimate
viable thing to be
reason.
scared
Yeah,
of. But yeah, but I'm like I'd be more concerned about I don't know cops. You just committed a crime. People could have been inside. You might have
yeah.
accidentally charged with arson. Someone might have been inside, and but I mean I guess it's very clear. So they get to well actually they're panicking so he's panicking so much and he's doing very classic comedy of trying to act casual but doing a terrible job at it and he's like no
yeah.
and they all need gas and he's like no let's just hit the road and so of course no gas for next 200 miles and so they're just
Yeah.
like literally wheeling their
Dragging their
bikes
bikes. Yeah.
and then
Oh, and
yeah
yeah. They um going back to the bar burning down, they play Wanted, Dead or Alive,
oh my
and
god yes yes
like that was really good. But between them doing that and them actually getting to Madrid, the director said this is like the most expensive scene musically we have of a movie scene ever done, because it cost them like the actual budget for like all the songs that they did for this movie was probably like a third of the budget of the entire movie, and that like probably like 11 minutes of them burning down the bar when they actually get to Madrid, and he's just saying like all these like "Right, Sally, right," like he's just saying like all these like random song lyrics and titles and stuff. Like it was the most like one of the most expensive shots in the entire movie of just 11 minutes of just music and music references.
Actually, the soundtrack for this movie is like on every dad's playlist.
Oh,
Every dad, like
100%.
I think maybe there's a couple of songs that I hadn't really heard, or I can't, I wasn't like, oh yeah, this song, but like of course it starts off with Slow Ride, and I'm like, everyone, if you've ever played Guitar Hero, you're pretty familiar with Slow Ride. I feel like Slow Ride's super overplayed, and it was because of Guitar Hero. Because everyone that was hearing it, everyone was aware of it. That's where I learned about it. But
I
yeah,
yeah.
Slow Ride, Bon Jovi. It's just I'm sure my dad has all these songs somewhere on his phone. Um,
I
so
think my dad
they,
still has like the records of these.
oh, I don't. I'm the one in my family with the records. My parents are like, actually, we did have a bunch of CDs, and I think my dad got an iPod and then was like, ditch the CDs. But anyway, they get to Madrid, and they like barge into the diner. That's Maggie's diner. It's owned by Marissa Tomei, and they're just like, super dehydrated, and they're just like, like the soda like sprayer thing. They're just like
Yeah.
spraying that into their mouths. They're just taking cups off of people's tables, and then the sheriff comes in, and the sheriff, I'm trying. Let me look up his name. He's that like. You see you know him. I've seen him in everything. He
He's
always
the
plays like nerdy, goobery like teacher. He was the
yeah,
teacher in Freaky Friday.
Steven Tobolsky, Tobolsky, I think is his name.
Probably.
I can't actually pronounce his last name.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's I know it. Yeah. Um, they
Yeah.
just he's like that. He's in everything. Like if
Yeah,
anyway,
he's just kind of like a bumbling authority figure or like a bumbling antagonist. Yeah, he's just kind of been like one of those like character actors who's just kind of like incompetent at everything that he does, yet he's still there.
yeah. Um, and I guess they're all petrified. They're like, "Are you guys the Del Fuegos?" And they're like, "Oh no." And he's like, "Guys, it's okay. They're not Del Fuegos because the Del Fuegos terrorize this town." It kind of turned into
Yeah.
like Bugs Life, honestly, at the end.
Oh,
Like
100%.
like
Yeah.
they're the they're the grasshoppers. But it's also very clear. I'm like, okay, well, I guess now I understand why John Travolta isn't afraid of the police being after him, because clearly the police are more afraid of the gang than they are of the cops. So he just wants to hit the road, but of course the gas station is closed till tomorrow, which will be the chill. It's the chili festival,
Yeah.
and this is where I just kind of felt like I will say, this movie there were times where I did genuinely laugh. I thought this was like a solid joke. And then there were jokes that were just very cliche, like I should have expected this. And then there were some that were just not that necessary. And I felt like they just put it in there for like, oh, we need more laughs. Like you can't have
Yeah.
too many laughs.
Well, a lot of
Yeah.
the scenes in this movie, like a lot of the dialogue is just straight up improv.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like I want to say like a good 40% of the dialogue between everyone is just improv.
And William H. Macy, who's terrified to talk to women, and at the beginning of the movie, he's trying to impress this woman with a program where he's talking like Siri. This is pre Siri, but it's him like
Yeah.
giving commands,
Yeah.
and says like open internet, and it says like, what was it, like alternative sex or something?
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, and it's like, well, it looks like I'm gonna have to look up alternative specs for this thing.
Oh.
It's like searching alternative sex, and it just brings up like
Porn.
barnyard love, and it's like,
Yeah.
grandma wants to spank your bottom. It's like, what the? And he's in like a public like a Starbucks, and there's children around, and he's just like taking his computer apart, and then he just spills coffee all over it.
Actually, the barnyard one, apparently that was John Travolta speaking with a southern accent.
Oh my
I've heard
God.
that. I know. But he is like in love with Marissa Tomei, and he tries her chili, and it's way too hot. And then they end up. The sheriff basically says to him, that suggests to them that they all go do this thing that they all do, where you
Called
slap
bull slap.
bull slap, and just makes you aware that you're not controlled by fear. And it's them slapping a bull, which I don't know why they didn't see that coming. They thought it was like a euphemism or like and I'm like, nope, that's exactly
like,
what it is.
Hey man, I thought this was drinking game.
And John Travolta does it, and then Tim Allen goes to do it, and of course they're like, oh, this is crazy. We've actually never seen somebody do it twice it's never happened twice in a row. It'll be interesting.
It's like, yeah. Now that the bull's alert, and it's like alert.
Oh, so
and
sorry, really quick, for the two sheriffs that are like the work with
the deputies,
deputies, they are twin brothers, and one of them, his ear is kind of blown off, and that's why the sheriff says, we no longer carry firearms, because sometimes you think the safety's on, and then
the next thing you blow your deputy's ear off.
And so the brother always makes sure to stand on the right side of him so he can talk about his brother without him hearing. And I did like that joke, because he later in the movie, at the end of the movie, he says something rude about his brother, and he doesn't realize he's on the side where he can hear. I'm like, I did think that was funny. Yeah,
Yeah, because he introduces himself as like, "Oh, I'm Earl and Buck, and just remember to tell us apart. The brother with the word eater in his name is the one that has both on his head. Now I can say that because I'm on the right side of him. You say something, Earl? No, I did not, Buck.
so they later William H Macy did not join them for the slapping a
Bull
bull,
slap.
and he wants to. Marissa Tomei wants to meet him on the dance floor, and then John Travolta quickly gives him dance lessons, which I thought that was funny, given that it's
Yeah,
John Travolta. And he's doing well for a while, and then kind of throws her into a table, and then panics and starts doing the sprinkler. And then Marissa Tomei just kind of goes with it. This I thought she just does this weird move over to him. I laughed there, like, and then they just dance, and it's pretty cute, and he like gets the girl, and then we find out the Del Fuegos are kind of onto them and find them, and
yeah, they
Martin
found them. Yeah,
Martin Lawrence goes up and just like talks to them and tells them to back off and puts ketchup and mustard all over them, and they think that's the end of it, and they're
yeah,
still unaware of what John Travolta did until
yeah,
the next
and
morning.
the reason that the two Del Fuegos do nothing to beat the crap out of Martin Lawrence for just spraying all this ketchup and like splashing beer in their faces because like, oh man, Ray Liotta's character will kill us because he explicitly told them is like, hey, you want us to smack them around a little? It's like, no, I want to feel their bones break under my fist. Nobody touches them but me. It's like, okay, we'll make sure we'll stay here, and so Martin Lawrence just blast them with like ketchup and mustard. And it's like, no, it's like we can't do anything to them. So they literally just stay there and take this like juvenile punishment of just getting spurted with all this stuff, and the whole town is just like eating this up of just like, he stood up to the Del Fuegos. These guys are our heroes, and it's just like, oh man, we should stay in town another day. I'm basically like the mayor of this town now.
And and the next morning, yeah, again, Judge Roll is acting very weird. Why does he want to hit the road so quickly? And then the Del Fuegos come into town, and he tells them what he did. And then, of course, they're terrorizing this town, and they're basically gonna like destroy the diner. So William H Macy can't stand for that. Goes to save the diner, and of course they then have him. And the Wild Hogs
Yeah,
attempt to rescue him. They end up fighting, and then there's the whole speech of like, you guys saying we're not men, you guys aren't real men, you're the posers. And then Peter Fonda shows up, and he, I guess, is Jack's dad. He's like the
yeah,
ultimate cool biker, and he says, why do you
yeah.
think I
That
don't hang
that that,
out
that
with
was actually that whole like, oh, like thanks pop, like him revealing that like that's his dad, totally ad libbed,
no? Of
like
course.
100% ad libbed, and then he says like takes after his mom. Like, all right, that wasn't in the script. I'll roll with it.
And he basically says like, why do you think I don't hang out with the Del Fuegos anymore? Because you're missing the point of riding. And then of course so Tim Allen called his wife before, and she's on the phone. Martin Lawrence's wife is with her, and she's like, oh, they're
Yeah,
calling me from New Mexico. And she doesn't know that he went on a road trip. They got there. They drove cross country and got to New Mexico incredibly quick.
yeah.
And of course, she's like screaming at him, and he basically says, like, I love you,
It's
but
like
stop talking to me
it's like
like I'm a kid. And their
yeah,
marriage is way
yeah.
better
No,
now.
they got there in like a day.
Yeah. I
um,
get no stopping, but like, other than for gas, like, they just, I don't know. I was just like, I was literally expecting, I'm like, they're going to show up. And then they did. And
yeah,
then he, like, Tim Allen's son is so impressed, like, whoa, you beat up a bunch of bikers? I gotta go call my friends and tell them. And nothing changes for John Travolta.
yeah.
Like,
He's still
his wife doesn't suddenly show up saying, oh, again, I love you and I'll get you out of all your debt. And
yeah, basically.
that doesn't happen.
He but I mean, I feel like he's just kind of like realized that it's like, oh, I don't really need any of that. Like, I have my friends. Like,
Yeah.
I lost, like, because he kind of says this like when they're like all fighting the Del Fuegos, which is also a really funny thing because William H Macy is still tied up when he's fighting them. They literally like duct tape his like arms to his side so he can't really do anything. So he's fighting them while tied up, but John Travolta, like in the middle of a fight, is just like it's like it's like do whatever you want to me. It's like I got no wife, no job, no house, but I got my friends. I got them to the end, and they just get the ever loving crap beaten out of them, and they all just kind of like are on the ground and just like, are we doing this? And it's like, yeah, and they all stand up. They're like barely hanging in there, and like Ray Liotta just like, the hell's wrong with you? Like he doesn't understand like why these guys won't stay down after like the massive beating that they just got from like the 60 bikers that just beat
Yeah.
these guys up. And then eventually like the whole town joins up, and then Ray Liotta's dad shows up, who's the founder of the Del Fuegos. Like, no, get on the road and ride the road until you realize what biking is really about, and basically
Yeah.
just like sends him to his room, basically.
Basically.
Um,
And then
but, yeah,
family show up and they make it onto they get to like it's like SoCal. They're like they're like driving along the beach, and there's this whole joke of because like William H Macy has been running into things because he's a horrible biker, and then of course it's all the other guys run into a surfboard, and William H Macy laughs, and then that's the end. And
yeah.
they're in the credits. I actually thought this joke was super funny. So because they burnt down the bar, we're cut to it's an episode of like Extreme Makeover, like Home Edition, and it's for the Del Fuegos. So it's like move that bus, and it's a new Del Fuego
like,
bar.
Yeah, let me introduce the Del Fuego family.
And the parking lot is completely made of leather, but they're all like the one main like one of like Jack's like sidekicks, the tall like ginger with the beard. He like hovering has his hands over his mouth, so shocked. Like I thought that was super funny. And
yeah, it's like this is so cool. This is so cool.
And they said they got a call from the Wild Hogs, and I'm like, that's how it works. Like you just like
I don't know.
I know,
works,
but like
yeah.
the fact that like it's so easy just to put them on extreme makeover. I just thought that was I'm like what, but I thought that joke was so random and so I thought that was really funny.
It was so out of the place and just like not something that you were expecting.
Also,
but it
so
was
topical because that's just not on anymore. I don't think.
I never really watched it. I don't know if that is still.
We watched it a little
thing.
bit. It was one of those things like I don't think we recorded it, but if it was like on and it was like entertaining, like it was definitely not a boring show. But yeah, but it's very like that's a very 2007 reference right there. And then
it was such a random joke, yeah.
And Ray Liotta is just he will not like he's like tears in his eyes and but I love the Jack was just a I don't know what Jack was like he just wouldn't really like but I thought that was then that's the end of the movie. And they're all watching it on a TV in a bar and then that's the end of the movie. And I guess apparently there were plans for a sequel but it got scrapped after the movie Old Dogs, but which was John Travolta and Robin Williams, and that also was a flop.
That movie I did not like.
I didn't see it. I just know one of them finds out they're a dad, and there's a scene where Seth Green is being cradled by a gorilla. Like it just in the trailer it looked very obviously trying to be funny. But I remember, I remember the poster for it. The tagline "Sit, Stay, and Play Dad" was way bigger than the actual title because I remember my friend thought that's what the title was. I'm not kidding. We were waiting in line.
I remember that too. Like my sister had like the same thing. I think, and I also remember the trailer. The entire trailer was just kind of like them was like, oh, like Robin Williams discovers he's a dad after all this time with like an old fling or something like that. But the entire trailer takes place with him, John Travolta, and Seth Green in the zoo being attacked by the various animals, and that is only like a 5-minute scene in the movie, and yet that's what the entire trailer was, and that's the funniest part of the entire movie.
I can't stand when trailers do that when the funniest bits are all in the trailer, and then it's like, so the trailer's really great, but the movie sucks.
Yeah. So like me as a kid going into that movie thinking it was like, oh, it's these 3 guys stuck in a zoo trying to get to Robin Williams' kids. Like I thought that was it. I thought it was just them like navigating the zoo because they had to break in for some reason. Like I don't know what I was thinking
Like
as a kid, but I
Ocean's
thought it was just
11, but they gotta
yeah,
break
like
into a zoo.
yeah, it's like oh we gotta get to my my kids because they're in there for a thing that they won't let us in for some reason or something, but they just have to go through like enclosure by enclosure and them just constantly being harassed or encountering all these various dangerous wildlife, like them getting pecked by penguins or the gorilla just like cradling Seth Green because he thinks it's like a defenseless baby because he's so small and shrieking. Um, it's like, oh, this will be really funny. It's just like, oh, them interacting with all these animals. That's gonna be super funny. No, it's literally just those two scenes. It's like, son of a bitch.
But yeah, this was Wild Hogs had like a 14% from critics, and audiences gave it like a 61. And yeah, I think once they're actually on the road, I felt like the movie got a lot better. The first kind of half, I was just very not into, and then once they were like, especially when they're in Madrid, I was really, really invested by that point. But
Yeah.
the first
Oh,
half,
you mean Madrid?
Oh yeah, Madrid. Sorry, Madrid. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, the first part I was just not into, and I was very struggling to be into it. And but I don't know. It's just it's a dumb comedy. It's not any. There's
It's a dumb
nothing
comedy, but
nothing
yeah.
horribly wrong. I mean, yes, there are things that are. It wasn't even like, oh, this is the worst piece. It was more just like they could have done this to make this better. It wasn't that anything wrong with the premise. I guess it was more just like care. I don't know. It was just kind. It's a dumb comedy to watch while you're
Yeah.
cooking or something.
It's definitely like a background movie, but I mean, it's definitely not as bad as like a lot of like other comedies, like Paul Blart Mall Cop. I think is like a way worse comedy than this movie, and yet this one is kind of like a lot more obscure than Paul Blart Mall
Paul
Cop.
Blart just has become such a big deal because it's
So
it's so
absurd.
yes, and like it
Yeah.
got a sequel, and then that video of the guy on who's the biggest Paul Blart fan, and he has his whole room decorated to Paul Blart stuff,
Oh yeah.
singing to the
Like Paul
yeah
Blart Mall
the
Cop
song
Paul
Pompeii,
Blart.
but it's to like his own song of how much he loves Paul Blart. Like yeah, that it's again, this is also a period of time where comedies were just simply like absurdity is what's funny. And the thing is, I'm not
Yeah.
against that. I'm not opposed to nonsense. It's just all about but comedy is comedy, so it is all about timing and delivery. And
Yeah.
sometimes there was a joke where when they were after they left Del Fuego, when John Travolta went back to go just before he went back to go get the bikes, and Tim Allen and John Travolta are talking, and this was at the Chili Festival. They're talking about that moment, and he says, and John Travolta's like, "Yeah, I'm sorry I called you a pussy," and Tim Allen's like, "You didn't call me a pussy." He's like, "Oh well, I mean, I was thinking it." Like
Yeah, it's
that
like I
joke I
didn't say it
thought
to your
was
face.
funny. It's just it's I don't know. But comedies are also comedy's a lot harder. I feel like to write than people would think because
Yeah,
different everyone's got a different
sense of humor.
taste. Yes,
Yeah,
everyone's got a different sense of humor, and
I genuinely think that like comedies and dramas are like the hardest things to write.
like, I think honestly, I think comedy is probably even harder than drama. I think, but
Yeah, yeah, because I think I'd have to agree with that actually, because like dramas, like for the most part, those are all like grounded in reality in the real world, whereas a comedy can be, it's like, oh well, yeah, like we can have like slapstick humor and have like no physical like repercussions of like this guy getting hit in the face with a sledgehammer. Um,
yes,
and so on and so forth. All right, so back to Wild Hogs. The question of could this actually happen, Sam?
I think all of this could happen. I think every single thing could happen. I just don't think it would happen. I didn't find really any of this very. I don't know. Again, because it's not like our previous movies where I'm like, it's just simply no. Like I think some of the struggles I were realistic and are things that middle aged men deal with, and the
Yeah,
idea of mortality and realizing I'm in my mid 40s, early 50s, like I'm
and I've
not.
done nothing with my life,
Yeah,
or like,
yes.
or at least some of them kind of had that realization is like, geez, I have nothing
Like John Travolta,
outside of
yeah,
this.
John Travolta even like called out Tim Allen. He was like, "I'm sorry you hate your life. You have such a shitty life." And he's like, "I don't hate my life." Like he does definitely. He's yeah wishes. He has no. He doesn't really seem to have regrets other than he just wishes he was young again, and he
Yeah,
wants to be carefree, and he's not because he
has
yes,
responsibilities.
responsibility. He is a husband and a father. He has a job, and even in the hospital, because he ends up in the hospital for like it's like a few minutes in the movie, and he says to his wife, like, "I mean, I put all that on hold for you and our son," and she's like, "So it's my fault?" And he's and that's not what, and he's like, first of all, I'm in the hospital. I can't really blame anyone but myself. I
Yeah,
like
it's like
his
I'm in a hospital. It's easier to blame other people for my problems, and it's like that was another improv line. It's super solid.
but like I thought the things that they're all dealing with were other than William H. Macy, I just thought that was really unrealistic. It's like you're in your 40s and you're still struggling so hard to talk to women. Like unless it was he went through some kind of messy divorce or he something happened that made him this timid. I think
Yeah,
the
I feel like they should
I
have fleshed him out a bit more.
he was not fleshed out at all other than he couldn't talk to women. It's like
Yeah, he was nerdy and couldn't talk to women. That was pretty much it.
it was so I yes, everything in this movie could happen. I just don't think any of this movie would happen.
Yeah, I think like for my take on this is that I think the natural progression of this movie was pretty straightforward up
Yeah,
until they get to the Del Fuego bar, and as soon as like that goes
that's the
sideways and
plot.
like him cutting the lines and them driving by it, I don't think they all would like the Del Fuegos would have just stood there and just like and just kind of like watched them go by. I think they would have just gone after them and then would have caught them a lot sooner. And also the fact that John Travolta was able to cut every single motorcycle's gas
Not
line
getting caught.
without anyone, with no one noticing. I straight up think that they would have caught him, and he would have just been like face down in a ditch behind the bar, dead, and then that would have been the end of the movie. Like I straight up think that like, and if that didn't happen, I straight up think that the Del Fuegos would have just killed these guys
I
out
think
of just pure retribution by that point.
I also think the thing about the Del Fuegos is I get their frustration of them feeling like they're actual real bikers and they're seeing all these people that aren't. And yeah, they miss the point that these guys aren't trying to yes, they're kind of trying to be like a biker gang, but they are also just they love riding and that's what the whole point of this road trip is. Um,
Yeah, they just want to be free.
but I think if maybe that was introduced sooner and then throughout the movie they're trying to run away from them, it was just kind of it got more interesting with the Del Fuegos because that was when like things started happening.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
this movie didn't have like an antagonist until like halfway through the movie. The antagonist was
Yeah.
just their own mortality, I guess, which that's not funny. That's just sad.
And it could have and if that's the case, fine, but like it could have been just have it be like just a group of guys, a group of middle-aged guys decide to take a road trip on their bikes. And then the Del
Yeah,
Fuegos as a part of it, but not they made it out to be like that's the big premise, which yes, that's what happens, but they don't show up till like more than halfway through the movie.
yeah, but overall, I do very much enjoy this movie, flaws and all. Like it is a funny movie. It does achieve what it's trying to achieve as a comedy. Like you will laugh at this movie. It does take a bit to get the ball rolling, but I mean, you do need to get a little bit of like a character introduction on why these four guys feel like they need to go on this road trip because their lives suck that much, or they
Yeah.
they, they need it because like they don't know, like they're gonna hit like a breaking point eventually from just going through like their humdrum mundane lives. um, but I think it pulls off what it's trying to do very well. um, I didn't realize that this movie was as critically panned as it was because I didn't think it was that bad, honestly. But
But also when you
I
grow up
guess
with
I'm
it, I think we've both have this. There's certain movies. Everybody's got this. There's a movie that you
yeah,
love so much that you're unaware of. You don't notice certain
yeah,
things because you like it, which is totally fine.
yeah.
If it
And it's also been
yeah.
years since I've last seen this, so
Yeah.
I did notice a lot of like the cracks a lot more on my most recent viewing of it than I did in the past. But they don't seem that glaring as compared to other comedies that are way more beloved, like Paul Blart, even though they are not as good or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know why I keep comparing this to Paul Blart, but
I mean, it came out
it
around the
just
same.
seems like a natural kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, it came out
Yeah,
after, but yeah, it's that same like nonsensical comedy of middle-aged man being the hero as opposed to the young person, in a
yeah,
sense.
the young up and comer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so I think we've got a few minutes. Do you want to do recommendations? Unless you
Um,
haven't watched anything, then we'll cut this out.
I'm trying to think of like stuff that I've actually been genuinely watching. On Netflix, actually, I've been kind of revisiting my childhood because they just put as of this recording, they have all of Avatar: The Last Airbender series as well as Legend of Korra. So I am going to be. I've already binge watched all of Avatar, so I'm going to be continuing that binge-a-thon with Legend of Korra and kind of finish the whole saga. And super fun kind of watching all of those because I haven't really seen those since they first came out, which is kind of a bummer because it seemed like Nickelodeon more or less kind of buried Legend of Korra after the second season. Because I didn't even know that they made a third season until I saw trailers for the fourth
What?
season
What?
randomly on YouTube.
That's weird.
Yeah, like it was out, and then I literally heard nothing that they made a third season until I saw a random trailer for the fourth season coming up, and I only saw the fourth. They only had like the fourth season, um, on Nickelodeon.com. Like I couldn't, I didn't know, I didn't see it like anywhere listed on like their actual like channel. So I had to like find them all online and watch them through that because they
Yeah,
just seemed to more or less bury the show because I
that's
guess they
weird.
were well, I kind of can't blame them because Legend of Korra, there are a lot more. This definitely isn't a kid show type moment of,
Like Clone
yeah, that guy
Wars.
just, yeah, but somehow worse. And they also did
Oh
like,
wow.
yeah, well, I mean, not as bad as Clone Wars, but like there were a few moments where it's like, yeah, no, that dude's straight up dead. Like, there's no like implying that they totally survived that. It's like, nope, his head just blew up. He is dead.
Yeah,
Those three men are going to starve to death because you only gave them one plate of rice and the next guard shift is in 2 weeks. Those men are going to starve to death or resort to cannibalism. Neither situation is good. Um,
yeah.
and then they also like heavily implied like a like sexual like they did a lot of like implications of like sexual like I don't even know how to explain this. Self-sexual identifying in this show, which I guess Nickelodeon didn't like. Is like, no, they need to be straight or don't address it at all.
What year?
Um,
What year was this roughly?
uh, a few years ago, like 2015,
That's
I
kind
want
of
to
like at
say. So it was,
yeah, that's kind of at the
yeah,
end of the like Disney did that like with High School Musical 3 when like the character Ryan wanted to come out as gay and Disney wouldn't let them. But that was like 10
yeah.
years ago. And now that of course would, you know, but like 2015 that seems that's kind of in that weird middle of where things are
Yeah,
starting to
it was on
change.
the cusp, yeah. And now like on Nickelodeon, I know that in the show The Loud House, they straight up just have one of their characters is just openly gay. From what I've heard, I've never actually watched the show,
Yeah,
but I do remember hearing
that's
a
cool.
couple things about that. Just like, all right, sweet,
Yeah,
yeah, good for you.
that's
All right, yeah.
yeah,
But yeah,
yeah.
they did after the end of Legend of Korra, they did straight up confirm that. It's like, oh yeah, Korra is bisexual, and this is the reason why in like a comic that is officially attached to the canon narrative of the end of the show.
Mhm. Okay.
So I was like, sweet, we got our just desserts.
Yeah, Avatar. I want to finish Clone Wars first. That's my first priority.
How far into
I'm
that
still
have you
on season
gotten?
5. I've been very aware that I haven't watched any in the last couple weeks, and so I'm in like
Okay,
this week. I have to catch up because I want to finish it
okay,
before season 2 of Mandalorian. That's my goal.
that's fair.
Um,
Yeah, no,
yeah,
I remember that in season 5 there's going to be. I'm
You're
expecting
gonna
like
get a phone call
at
from me
least
probably.
I'm gonna get like at least 2 phone calls from you based on off of your
I love
reaction.
that when it's
They are not gonna be good.
once it's gonna I'm not gonna I have no idea. I love watching things with you. This is definitely a show like Danny Phantom that I honestly wish that I got to watch with you because you
Oh
know
yeah.
exactly what stuff. Like I was thinking about this the other day when the one that's basically like Infinity War where
Oh, the
Danny
reality gauntlet.
transforms in front of everybody, and my jaw and you looked at me. My jaw literally dropped, and you literally went and jaw dropped just as my jaw like fell open. Like,
It's like 3, 2, 1, jaw drop.
um, yeah. So I'm making my way through that, but I actually a couple like 2 weeks ago. So yeah, it's been a couple of weeks since our last episode due to scheduling slash technical issues. We recorded an episode and then due to poor Wi-Fi lost it, and so had to kind of just
Yeah.
move forward. Um,
Yeah.
but we'll just do it again at another time. But anyway, I like 2ish or so 3 weeks ago. I watched Palm Springs. It's
Okay.
the Andy Samberg movie. It's on Hulu.
Oh yeah, that's that Groundhog Day
See, I didn't know
type
anything
movie. Yeah.
about it. I knew a movie was coming out called Palm Springs, Andy Samberg and like Kristen Maloney. I know the actors. I can't think of her name, but like she. But the it's yeah. I
Yeah.
didn't know it's like Groundhog's Day. They're stuck in a time loop, or he's stuck in a time loop, and then she gets stuck in it with him. And the idea is kind of they're stuck at this wedding in Palm Springs, and the idea kind of becomes like nothing matters, and so they're just living like no tomorrow, nothing matters, and then eventually, obviously, that's only gonna last for so long. So it's way heavier than Groundhog's Day because Groundhog's Day
Yeah.
obviously
No.
it's until he makes it. He has to become a better person and he gets it right. He will then move forward. Whereas this, like, no, it's not.
There's no telling when it's gonna end.
No, like I won't give anything away, but it's not just we have to do things, make amends or whatever. Because right, that's what her first thought was. Oh, I got to make amends for things I did, and then I'll whatever. But it's I thought it was there were a lot of jokes I thought were super funny, and I was super into it, not knowing anything about it, which was nice because know I usually see the trailer and I'm very aware of it, and this time I had no knowledge of it other than they're at a wedding. I knew Andy Samberg, Palm Springs at a wedding. That's all I knew. I didn't really know anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely recommend that. That's on
Yeah.
Hulu.
Yeah, no, I definitely saw the trailers for that. I was like, this looks really good. And I've been seeing a lot of trailers for the show that, as of this recording, is premiering tonight on HBO, Lovecraft Country, which
Oh,
I'm a big like H.P. Lovecraft fan, so I was like, oh, this is gonna be really cool. Like it kind of takes place in like the rural South in like I guess like the 1960s or something. So and it's also got like Jordan Peele attached to it,
oh,
and just I'm already hooked because
yep.
he's done a lot of like really good stuff in terms of horror with like Get Out, and I still need to see Us. But he's just kind of made like a name for himself outside of just being part of Key and Peele.
And he's so I kind of like he's so funny, and that everyone assumed he was just going to be a comedian, and it's like he's such a talented horror writer director. Like that's
Yeah,
what I've noticed a lot with a lot of like when you come from a background of comedy, you're very versatile.
yeah,
I feel like we've
it
all seen this a lot, and so yeah, he's
yeah,
so
no,
talented. It's stupid.
yeah. I'm really looking forward to watching that tonight when that premieres. I already have it set to record and everything
Yeah.
in case I miss something. But yeah, no. By the time that this comes out, we'll probably be in like episode 2 of Lovecraft Country. So if I'm wrong about the show and it sucks, well then this is gonna age like milk then.
So before we sign off, we are on Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, and YouTube. Please like and subscribe and review us. That'd be really great. And yeah, just keep on listening. Uh,
Yeah, send us some suggestions or recommendations on TV shows or movies that you want us to do. Otherwise, we'll just kind of keep doing what we want to do if that's
and
what you
yeah,
guys are into.
and we're officially out of our summer movies, and we're gonna move on to some
September.
September things. Um, All right.
I already have a couple ideas lined up for September, so don't you worry, folks. In the meantime, I'm Kevin Tracy,
I'm Smith Tomlinson.
and you've been listening to Movie Reel. Take care, folks.